Hi everyone. So yesterday we talked about views. We talked about the different type of views that we can have, whether we can modify the data to the view or not, and if yes, what are the limitation of that. So we learned all of that. Today in the same line, we are going to talk about the functions, like what can we do with the functions. Though we have already talked about all of this again in the previous two classes, but again I just want to cover out some of the important aspects of functions again. So talking about the inline functions in T-SQL, the only way to filter a view is to add a filter in the where clause when you select from the view. However, you can use an inline table valued function to simulate passing a parameter to a view. What does it mean? You know that when we create a view, right, you can't pass any parameter to a view, and that is what the difference between a view and a function, right? In function, while you can pass on a parameter, you can filter the record, you can't do that in a view. But if you want to do filtering of record in a view, you can use the select star from view name, and then after that you can put up the where clause, right? The same thing you can do inside the function as well through the parameters. An inline table valued function returns a row set based on the select statement you coded into the function. So as per the select statement that you have defined by creating this inline function, what will happen is that the record would come as per that select statement, and again as per the parameter as well, like whatever parameter that will pass. So the on the basis of that you'll get the results. So this is how an inline table value function looks like. For example, this function is again on the basis of the data that we have in the AdventureWorks 2019. So if you see here, we have a 1 second. So if you see here, we are trying to create an inline table value function. Now, how do we know that this is a inline table value function? If you remember, yesterday we talked about that. So the return statement actually it comes just after when the body starts. So that means create function name returns the table as, and then we have the return keyword, right? And inside the return keyword we have the actual statement. That means what we want to return from this function. Okay, so let me just try to create this function here. The above statement also I'll let you know, because again we have not covered like how do we drop an object and create out of that. So let me just talk about that as well. Let me change the database to AdventureWorks 2019 here. Okay, so if you want to check if a particular object exists in the database or not, this is one way of doing that, right? There can be a lot of ways of doing that. One way of doing that is that there's a function object id. In that function you just pass on the name of the object. So here the name of the object is this, and then the type of object. So when we have the inline function, the type of the object is if, and you check whether that exists or not. If that exists, then we are dropping that function, right? And after that we are separating out the statement by using the go, so that you can actually run the create statement as well after that. So after that we are creating the function. So create function name returns then table, because this is a inline function which is a table valued function. So that's why we are returning something in the form of table. After that as, and then return. After that we have the select statement. Okay, so let me first check whether we have this tables or not. Okay, we don't have the sales of orders, sales dot orders here. The reason is again because I think I have developed this on SQL Server 2017. That's the reason. It's sorry, it's on AdventureWorks 2017, which is not installed currently in my system, but that is fine. We can change the tables accordingly. So if I go into the sales, we don't have the sales dot order. So what I can do is that here I can put sales dot maybe sales order details, and here I can put it like sales dot sales order header. Okay, and then here o dot o dot order date sum of od dot okay, we don't have sales order detail, but it's actually sales order detail. So od dot order quantity as quantity, and then on which basis we want to join this two columns. So I think it should be sales order id, and here also sales order id, and group by we can write order detail. So as you can see that now my function is ready, nothing is giving error or something. So first of all, I can just run this just to make sure that if there is a thing, there is this function, then this should get dropped. If you run this thing n number of times, this will never fail, right? So this is known as dynamic handling of an object, right? So whenever in a organization, when you'll be creating the object, the first thing that you would be doing is that you'll checking whether that object exists or not. Now, now I've created the function, as you can see. So if I have to run this function again, because this is a table valued function, so in order to run this, what I can use here is that select star from this, and then you can see that I got the values for everything, right? I got the year and then the order quantity for that year. So that is about the inline valued function. There are some guidelines to create an inline table valued function. The first thing is that specify parameters. Parameters are totally optional, but the parentheses that would enclose parameters are not optional. So this is how we identify a function. So if you are creating a function, the important thing is that you should have the parameter, or you should have the parenthesis. Even if you don't have the parameter, like in this case, we didn't have the parameter here. We are not passing any value as a parameter, right? But still we have this parenthesis, which is actually telling that this is a function. This is how we actually know that, okay, this is a function. Then add the clause returns table to signal the SQL server that this is a table valued function. So in order for SQL Server to understand that whether this is a uh, this is a table valued function or this is a scalar function, this clause is important. That means we need to have the returns table that will actually tell SQL Server that okay, this is going to return something in the form of table. So this is the table valued function. Following the as block, enter a single return statement. This acts like an internal function to return the embedded select statement. So after the as block, as I had shown you, so basically here this return statement actually tell what this function is going to return. So after the return statement, we are enclosing the proper return thing that is going to be returned as part of the output of this function. Embed the select statement that will define what you want the function to return as a row set to the column. The semicolon following the last parenthesis is optional, but if present, it must follow a closing parenthesis. So the semicolon that is here, this is totally optional, right? But if you are putting up semicolon in the end of the function, then you have to actually put the parenthesis before that as well. So uh, so if you don't want to put semicolon, then you can remove that parenthesis as well. You can just write return after that. You don't need that parenthesis. That is totally optional, right? So this is the other thing there. What are the options through which we can create the inline table weld function? Again, there are two options here like we had for the views. So I had shown you for the views, what are the two options that we have. The same options are true for inline functions as well. So one of the option is with encryption. What it would do is that it would hide the text or the definition of the inline function. That means the users would not be able to see what is the definition of the this inline function, right? So if we create an inline function with the with description option, the second option is with schema binding. With a schema binding would actually bind the schema. So that means that you can't drop the associated tables, you can't make changes to that, you can't add columns to that, you can't remove columns to that, right? So these are the various things that would happen if we have the with schema binding option. So if you have to summarize everything that we have learned about views and functions, so views are stored at T-SQL select statement that can be treated as though they were table. The reason why we are learning views and functions together here, because there's not a lot of difference between views and functions. Both look like the same. The only difference is that if I have to say, then the functions would have some, you can pass on some input parameters to the function, but it is not possible to do the same with the views. So that is the major difference I can say. Normally a view consists of only one select statement, but you can work around this by combining select statement which is compatible results using union or union or. Views can reference multiple state tables and simplify complex joins by users. By default, view do not contain any data. Creating a unique clustered index on a view results in a indexed view that materializes data. When you will select from a view, SQL Server takes your outer select statement and combines it with the select statement of the view's definition. SQL Server then executes the combined select statement. So these are all the things. I think we have already talked about all of this at least 4 or 5 times. So I'll not go into detail of this. This is, but if anyone has any question about what any particular thing means, then you can ask that. You can modify data through a view, but only one table at a time and only columns of certain types. Views can refer to tables or views in other databases and in other servers by linked server. So we talked about partition view yesterday when we create the partition view. So that partition view can actually, you can call object from different databases, and if you have the distributed partition view, it can be different server as well. So that is what we are being talking about here. Special views called partition view can be created if a number of conditions are satisfied, and SQL Server routes suitable queries and updates to the correct portion of the view. Inline functions can be used to simulate parameterized views. So these are all the differences between the views and functions. Now we have some questions here, right? Just two questions here. Just try to understand if you are able to get out of it. I'm not going to ask anyone what is the answer as of now, but definitely you should be knowing, because again I have covered all of this at least 3 4 times. So I expect everyone to actually know what are the what is the answer of all this. And if still you are not able to catch it up, I think you should go to the previous classes recording. You should again go through the views and function and then again come back to these questions from the recording, and then you should try to answer it. I'm not going to give the answer right now, okay, but I'll just read out the questions here. Anyone wants to answer can answer definitely, but I'm not going to take any name that who would be answering all of that. So talking about the first question, which of the following operator works in T-SQL views? So in T-SQL views, what are the operators that we can use? Can we use where clause? Can we use order by clause? Can we use group by clause? Can we use union or union all operator? So we have to just select which operator can we use here. The second question is that what is the result of with schema binding in a view? So if we create a view with a with schema binding option, which of the following is true in that case? The view cannot be altered without altering the table. Is that true? Or the table referred to in the view cannot be altered unless the view is first altered. The table referred to in the view cannot be altered unless the view is first dropped. The view cannot be altered unless the table it refers to it first dropped. So these are the four different options that we have, and only one of them is true. So as of now, I'll skip it, but again, you have to come back through the recording and you have to try to get the answer. Even if you are not able to get after the tomorrow's class, then we'll go back to this one. But you have to ask this question to me that I'm not what. Can you please tell me what could be the answer of this one? The other function type is the multi-statement table valued function, right? So what is the difference in the multi-statement? Definitely the difference here is that, as the name suggests, you can have multiple statement in the body of the function. If you see here, here is the body of the function is starting, right? And here it is ending. First, we are declaring a variable of the type max state. After that, we are selecting the variable as max order date from sales order header, where customer ID equal to @customer ID. And from where this customer ID is coming? Customer ID is coming from here. This is the input parameter for this function. We are returning a customer order table as the result set of this, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, right? So first of all, we are trying to get the value of max state. Once we get that, we are inserting the value in the customer order, and then on the basis of the max date and the customer ID. Max date is the date that we have just got it here. So as you can see, we have written multiple lines of code here. First of all, we are trying to get value of a variable, and after that we are trying to insert data into this customer order table, which we are going to return, right? So again, as there are multiple statements here, and since this is a function, so this becomes the multi-statement table value function because it is returning data in the form of table, right? So that is all about the multi-statement table value function. Now, if there's a requirement, a particular requirement, based upon that requirement only, you can identify whether you have to create the inline table value function or the multi-statement table value function and things like that. So if you get confused in something, what you have to do is that let's always approach. So if that function is going to return something in the form of table, right? Always try to create a inline table value function. But if you see that with the inline table value function, we are not able to do the things because we will need to, do some internal or intermediate operations. So in that case, you will definitely need the multi-statement table value function because that is well suited when we can't do with just a single insert or the select statement. For example, if in this particular thing, if I want to convert into the inline table value function, that is not possible because this parameter is important for me. This particular variable is important for me, and this variable we are not getting it from the function, right? So we have to calculate based on the customer ID. We have to calculate the max order date. So in order to do that, definitely we need multiple lines of statement here, and that's why we need to have the multi-statement table value function here. Now moving on, we have a very interesting topic, which is the conditional statements and all. As of now, we were though using it here and there, little bit of it, but again we are going to now learn about it, because this actually create the base of any store procedures and all. So right now we are just starting with the basics of a store procedure, you can say that, right? Because the conditional statements loop, mostly we use it all with the store procedures and all. When we create that, we use all of it. Talking about the different type of such a statement, we are going to learn about if statement, we are going to learn about begin end statement, we are going to learn about case, we are going to learn about while loop, we are going to learn about break, continue. These are the various statements which we use inside the procedures or the sequence of our procedures, and we are going to learn about all of them, just trying to understand what each one of them does. So if a statement, actually the if a statement looks like this. So after if you give the condition and then you give the statement, and if you have to actually, if you have multiple condition, then you'll have the else if as well. So if, else if and things like that. The last thing would be else here. So else would be the default statement which would run if everything fails. So we'll talk about that with the example which will actually make it more clear. So let me just take up example for if else. So first of all, I'm going to declare a variable customer ID int. So this is how we declare a variable in SQL, right? So we declare, we put up the declare statement. After that, we put up the name of the variable. So any variable starts with @ syntax, right? So it has to be at the @, and then we put up the data type of that variable. So here I've defined a variable with the data type integer. Now let me first check what data we have in sales.customer. Then accordingly I'll assign a value to this variable. So we have the customer ID, all of that, right? So I can write like select min customer ID from sales.customer, right? So what we are doing here is that, sorry, I've written this 2 times. So what we are doing here is that, so there are multiple ways you can assign value to a variable. One is using the select statement, other is using the set statement. For example, if you don't have to execute a query in order to get the value of the variable, you can do that directly. For example, something like this: set value of the variable equal to, directly put up the value that you want to set. But here I wanted to get the minimum customer ID, and I wanted to assign that value to the customer ID variable, right? So I've done that. Once I've done that, I will have the if statement. So if customer ID is less than 1, then I'll write here print customer ID is not valid. Now the print statement is used to print something, right? It can either be a variable value, or it can be something like a statement like I'm doing here, right? You can also write like print @customer ID, something like that. But as of now, I'm just doing this. Else if @customer ID equal to 1, print customer ID is valid. Set customer ID equal to customer ID plus 1. And now we have seen multiple statements, so I'll have to use begin and as well. Else print customer ID is maxed out. And once this all is done, I want to check what is the value of customer ID. So this is after the if state, the else statement. Okay. So here, this is again, I'll explain you all that what is the, but I think I just wanted to cover out some of the things. So the if statement, right? Whenever we write this else if is actually optional. If you have multiple conditions, then only you have to use this else if. If there is just one if condition, then you can write if and then just this else. After that, if you have suppose that 10 different conditions you want to check, then you can write this else if even 10 times. But even if there's no separate condition, you can just write it 0 times as well. So depending upon the number of conditions that you have to write this else if statement. Now what we are doing here as part of this query is that we are first declaring a variable of the type integer with the name customer ID. Then we are selecting the value of customer ID as min customer ID from sales customer. Okay, here what we can also do is that we can again print the value of the customer. What is the value of customer ID? So if I just run this 3 statement, what I'll get is that the value of the customer ID is 1. So 1 is the customer ID value that I'm getting. So first of all, the control will go to this if part of the statement. It will check whether customer ID, that means 1 is less than 1 or not. So because 1 is not less than 1, so the control will go up from the if part of the statement to the else if. Here it will check if customer ID equal to 1, which is actually true. So the customer ID value is 1. So now it will go inside this. Now, as you can see that we have written multiple statement, right? If there are more than one statement inside the else if part of the, and that's why I have used the begin end statement here. So we use begin end only when we have multiple statements inside something and we want to actually combine all those statements together. So if I want to use the multi with this begin end, SQL Server will actually skip the second part of the, it will think that this is not part of the else if. So just to tell SQL Server that, okay, all these statements which are inside the beginning are part of this else if. So that's why I've used this beginning here. So it will go as customer ID value is 1 here. So it will go inside this, it will print customer ID is valid. And then it will set the value of customer ID to customer ID plus 1. So using set, we can assign the values, we can increment the values, all of that we can do. So here we are trying to increment the value. So that's how it is. So as of now, the value of customer ID was 1. So it has become here 1 plus 1, that means 2. So we have set the value of the customer ID to 2. Now it will go down. It will not go to the else part of the statement. Why it won't go? Because either if runs, any one of them is true. Else will only come when the control will not go to either this or anything like that. So else would be something that would run only if none of the conditions are true. But here this else if condition was true. So that's why the control will not go to the else block. So it will skip this one, right? and then we are printing the value of the customer ID. So let me run all of this now and let me show you. So as you can see, the first thing that is coming is 1. From where this is coming? It is coming from here. First of all, we are printing the value of the customer ID. After that, the control is going here inside this, and it is printing customer ID is valid. You can see that here, right? And then after that, we are setting the value of customer ID equal to customer plus 1. So that is making the customer ID value to be 2. After that, it is skipping this else part. So when we are not putting up the beginning thing here, right? And after the else part, then SQL Server will understand that, okay, only this line is part of the else. So it will just skip this line, which is part of the else, and then it will go here and it will print the value of the customer ID, which is 2 here. For example, if in the else part of the statement, I put up begin and end. If I keep it like that, what will happen here? Now the next part of the statement, which is putting up that the value of the customer ID is 2, that will not print up, right? That will not print. So that is what will happen in case when the customer ID is when the so it will not print because now we have put up the beginning as part of the else. So now SQL Server will understand, okay, we have the beginning, that means all these statements are part of the else statement. So if I run this now, what you will see is that I'm not getting that 2 value that I'm getting, because now 2 is actually only be executed when the customer ID is not valid. For example, if I change this from min customer ID plus 1, now, which part of the statement would be executed? So definitely the value that we get here would be 2, because minimum of customer ID is 1. So 1 plus 1 equal to 2. Now when we'll print the customer ID to come as 2, and then after that, when we'll check the if statement. So if 2 is less than 1, that is not true. So it will go to the else if. Else if is like 2 equal to 1, that is also not true. So it will go to the else part. It will say that customer ID is maxed out, and it will print the value of the customer ID again. So this is what will happen here. Let me run this. So you can see that we are getting all of that. That means first of all, we are printing the customer ID, which is 2. Then we are going here, customer ID is maxed out. Then we are printing the value of that, which is 2 here. I hope it makes sense to everyone. If anyone has any question, let me know. So as I have told that this is how the if statement looks like. So if this, after if, we are going to talk about the begin end. I think we have already covered begin as well while I was explaining you the if else. So as you know that now begin end is used to combine multiple statements together. For example, if you want to close this out, you can just put on something like this, then something like this. So this is the way we can know that, okay, these statements are combined together, right? So beginning statement structure is used to group multiple statements into a single statement block, which can be used in other statement structures as a single statement. For example, a statement block can be used in an if-else statement structure as a single statement, right? So this is the purpose of the beginning keyword. Now the other thing that we want to learn is the case statement. Sometimes you are required to fetch or modify the records based on condition. Case expressions is best alternative for cursor looping and also provides better performance. You can use case expressions anywhere in the SQL query, like select statement, where, order by, having, insert, update, delete statement. So basically, one of the best thing about case statement is that it can be used almost everywhere, right? So it can be used as part of the select part of the query. It can be used for the when we have the update, and when we have the insert, when we have the delete, when we have the where clause. So all of that you can use the case statement. How the case statement looks like? So it looks like after case you put up the expression, and then You can compare whether expression is actually, when expression one equal to this, then do this. When expression is like this, then do this, right? That expression thing is again optional there. You can just put up dynamic expressions as well. That means for each of the condition you can put up different expressions and things like that. And again, this case expression also has a else part of the statement. So that means that if any one of the cases is not true, then there will be a default thing. But that is also optional. If you want, you can put it. If you not, then you can just skip this part of the thing. And then in the end, you have to put the end statement, which is actually tell, okay, the case statement is ending here. Just to understand how the case statement would look like, I'll use the same this sales dot customer table here. So how I'll use it? Select first of all start from sales dot customer. Let me see the value here in this table. I need to expand this. Okay, so you can see that these are the different values we have here. We have 19,820 records for this. So what I will do is that I'll write a case statement here. Case when customer ID is greater than 0 and customer ID is less than 1,000, then small customer when customer ID is greater than equal to 1,000 and customer ID less than equal to 10,000, then medium customer. When customer ID is greater than 10,000, then big customer. And as customer type, then customer ID then what else I want to put up? Account number and then the store ID. Right. So this is how the case statement would look like, right? What we are doing here is that we are categorizing the different type of customers here. For for any customer whose customer ID is greater than 0 and its customer ID is less than 1,000, then we are saying that that customer is a small customer. If any customer is greater than equal to 1,000 and it's less than equal to 10,000, then we are saying that okay, this is a medium customer. Then if any customer ID is greater than 10,000, then I would say that this is a big customer. And this particular column, I'm saying that this is a customer type, right? So when you get a scenario when you have to compare or you have to put up multiple values based upon the conditions of a particular column, so in that scenario you can definitely use the select this case statement, because case statement works very well when we have to actually different cases and different cases to compare. And again, it can be part of any statement, can be part of insert, it can be part of delete, it can be part of update, it can be part of select. Even you can use this case statement inside the where clause and all, right? So you can use that there as well. You can use it inside the order by clause as well to order the record. So it can be used almost everywhere. So this is a very, I would say, flexible statement. So, and we should be knowing that how to create the cases and all. So the syntax, as you can see, that it looks like case, then when you put up the condition, and then after that you put up the then means what it was the value of that condition. Okay, so when, then the condition, then after that you put the then. And likewise you can put a lot of condition, after that in the end you can put up else as well. So for example here, so I put up various conditions, so in the end I can put like else invalid customer. So anything which is not matching the condition that I have given here, right? For example, if suppose that any customer, its customer ID is less than 0, right? So if any customer ID is less than 0, we have not covered that situation in my case statement. So that customer will become an invalid customer because that condition is not there in my case statement here. So if I put up a customer ID with the customer ID is equal to 0 or less than 0, then that customer would become an invalid customer for my case statement here, right? So let me execute this and let me show you how it looks like. So you can see that I'm getting the different type of values based on the customer ID. So these all customers are the small customers, right? And then if anything is actually greater than 10,000, it is big customer. And then if anything is between that, so small customer, big customer. So we don't have anything which is between 1,000 to 10,000, and that's why we are not getting any record like medium customer. But again I can check that as well. How to check that? Let me show you this case statement inside the where clause. So I can write where and then case this equal to, so you can see that we don't have any medium customer, and that's why it's not I was not able to see that in the result. That means there is no customer ID which is greater than equal to 1,000 and it's less than equal to 10,000, and that's why we don't have a medium customer here. But again, as you can see that I can check that with by using this case statement inside the where clause as well. So as you can see that when I use this case statement inside the where clause, I can just compare these values. For example, if I check whether and print just the big customers, right? How can I do that? I can do that by using this big customer here in the where clause with the case statement. Now you can see that I'm getting only those customers which are the big customers. Okay, there would be not any small customer or something like that. If you want to do further ordering of the data further, you can definitely do that, but the purpose of this is definitely to just understand that how you can use the case statements in different ways. The other thing also you can do is that you can put up multiple conditions as well, right now. Yep, we have put up one single condition in the where clause. If I want to put up multiple condition, I can use it like, and for example, store id is not null. So you can see a lot of store IDs null. I don't want to see those store IDs. I just want to see those store ID which has a value. If I want to do that, I can put up a condition like store ID is not null. And if I execute this statement, you can see that I'm getting only those values which has a store ID. Okay. So this is how we do the filtering of the data. And this is the use case of the case statement. Let me again go back there. So case, then you can put up the expression, and then you can compare on the basis of expression that what would be the result of that. Now talking about the while loop. In SQL Server, you can use while loop when you are not sure how many times you will execute the loop body, and the loop body may not execute even once. Since the while loop is evaluated before entering the loop, it is possible that the loop body may not be executing even once. So basically, while, as you know, that while statement is actually a loop, right? What is a loop? So loop is something which will keep on executing until it turns out to be false, right? So that is what loop means. For example, in SQL Server, we have this while loop. So there are loops in front-end programming language as well, like C Sharp, Java, etc. But here we are going to talk about the while loop in a database language like SQL Server. So talking about the while loop, with while we give expression or the condition, and the while loop will keep on running until that condition is true. And once the condition becomes false, the while loop control would come out of the system. That means after that, the while loop will not execute, right? So talking about that, now let's try to understand it with the help of example. Suppose that we have a variable like site value. Okay, we are declaring that variable site value, and it is of type integer. That means we are putting up the value of this to be integer. Then we are setting up the value of site value to be 0. Okay, so we are setting up the site value equal to 0 while site value is less than equal to 10, right? So we are setting up if the value of site value is less than or equal to 10. If that is true, then we are coming inside the while loop and we are printing inside while loop, right? So, and then we are also setting up the value of site value equal to site value plus 1, and it will keep on running until this is true. So every time the control will glow and it will check whether after this thing whether the statement is still true, and accordingly it will keep on running. And once everything is done, we are doing done with done while loop, right? So let me just explain you how many times this particular statement will run, how it will execute, and all of that. Let's go back to SQL Server, right? So we are inside the while loop. Here we are first of all declaring a variable site value of the type integer, right? So when we are doing that, what first of all we are setting the value of site value equal to 0, right? So that means that we are initializing the value of this variable site value, and then again we are checking while site value is less than equal to 10. Then we are printing the inside while loop, and then after that I'll add one more thing here just for better clarity. Print at the rate site value. So this will print me the value of the site value, what is the current value of the site value. And then it will also, with help of set, I'm going to increment the value of the site value, right? So whatever the value is current value, I'm incrementing it by 1. While when this statement comes out of the while loop, then I'm printing done while loop. This is what I'm doing, right? So how this statement will work? First of all, the value of site value equal to 0. So the control will come here and it will say, okay, 0 is less than equal to 10. That is true. So it will go and it will print inside while loop for the first time. Then it will print the value of the site value, which is 0 right now. Then it will set the value of site value, which is 0 equal to 0 plus 1. So it will become 1. So the value of site value equal to 1 now. Now when that happens, the control will again go to here. It will again check. So this has become 1 now. 1 is less than equal to 10, which is true. So it will again print inside while loop, and it will print the value of the site value, which is 1 right now, right? And then it will again set the value of the side value to 2. So every time we are incrementing it by 1. So from 0 it became 1, and now it will become 2. So now 2 is less than equal to 10, which is again true. So It will print inside while loop, and then it will print the value to be 2. Then it will increment by 3. Similarly, it will increment by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Suppose that once it comes to 10, then 10 is less than equal to 10. This is also true. So it will print inside while loop, then print site value, which is 10, and then it will again increment the value from 10 to 11. Once it comes to 11, then 11 is less than equal to 10. This becomes false because 11 is not less than equal to 10. 11 is greater than 10, right? So once that happens, the while loop becomes false, then statement, the control will come out of the while loop. So where it will come? It will come here. And after that, we have this print statement. So it will print done while loop, right? Just one times. So this is how looping works. Looping means executing the statement until the condition is true, right? That's what we do in case of looping, and that's what we are doing here. So if I'll execute this particular statement, you will see that first of all, we are printing inside while loop, then 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Once it become 10, after that, it would become 11. And when it become 11, it became false. And that's why we came here that done while loop. I hope this is clear to everyone. We will see another example of this as well, just but with a twist here. We'll need to learn some other statement as well, like what is break, what is continue, right? And after that, we'll again come back to the while loop. So break statement in SQL Server, break statement is used when you want to exit from a while loop and execute the next statement after the loops in the statement. If they are nested while loops, the break statement will terminate the innermost while loop. You use the break statement to terminate the while loop early. There are no parameters or arguments for the break statement. So what is a break statement? Basically, suppose that you are comparing something in the while loop. Suppose that in the last one, like we had here, we are comparing the side value. Now side value will increment always by 1. That means from 0 it will become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Suppose that you have a particular condition that if this site value becomes 5, then you want to come out of the loop. You don't want to go after that. So there's particular statement, if it reaches there, you want to come out of the loop, something like that. If you want that, in that case, that is the perfect use case of the break statement. Just to come out of the while loop in between of some statement, if you want to do that, you have to use the break statement. So this is the example here, right? Let's move that again to SSMS, and then there we will do the coding or do the analysis of this code. Okay. So now the same example here, what we have added here is that we have added a if statement here, that if site value equal to 2, then break, right? So first of all, we are declaring the site value of the type integer. We are setting the value of site value to be 0. Then we are coming inside the while loop. While loop, we are comparing site value is less than equal to 10. That means 0 is less than equal to 10, which is actually true. Then we have this begin statement. So inside the while loop, we have the begin statement because we have multiple statements here. Inside the begin statement, the control will come and it will check if site value equal to 2. So right now the value of site value equal to 0. So 0 equal to 2, it will become false. So it will not execute the statement inside the if. It will go to the else block and it will print inside while loop. And also it will set the value of site value to be site value plus 1. That means it will that will become the site value would become 1 now. Okay, once it becomes 1, then it will again go back to here and it will again compare 1 is less than equal to 10, which is again true. It will come inside the begin and then it will check if 1 equal to 2. This is false. So it will again go to the else part of the statement. It will print inside while loop and it will again increment the value of the site value to be 1 plus 1 equal to 2. So now again the control will go here and it will check 2 is less than equal to 10. This is again true. So it will go inside this begin and then it will check with the if statement. if 2 equal to 2, this again, now this time it is true, right? So 2 equal to true. So it will come inside the if statement, and here we have the break statement. Break means come out of the control of the while loop. That means here the while loop execution will stop, and the control will reach here now. Once it reaches here, then we have the next statement as print done while loop. So it will print done while loop, and that's all it will do. So if I execute this one, you can see that for 0 it printed inside while loop, for 1 it printed inside while loop, and when 2 become, then it did the break of the while loop, and then it printed done while loop. So this is the purpose of break. If a particular condition is there on which you want to come out of the while loop, then you'd use break in that, right? Opposite of break, we have another statement known as continue statement. You can use continue statement to restart the while loop and execute the while loop body again from the start. There are no parameters or arguments for the continue statement. So let's try to understand the continue statement now. I've already explained through everything. What I'll do here is that I'll just put up the print statement for all of this. Print. Right. So here also we have the same variable site value, which is of the type integer. We are setting the value of site value to be 0. And then we are comparing while site value is less than equal to 10, which is true here. So after that, we are coming inside the begin. So we are checking if site value equal to 2, right? Then we have to break it. So that means that this is not true as of now, because the value of site value is 0. So it will go to the else part. In the else part, we have multiple statements. That's why we have begin in. So first of all, we are setting the value of side value equal to side value plus 1. So we are making it 1 here from 0. Then we are printing it. So that means it will become print 1, and then inside while loop. And after that, we have the continue statement. What continue statement does is that, for example, if I write here print site value plus 1, this print would never be executed. Why it won't be executed? Because we have a continue statement here. What continue statement does is that it takes back the control to the while loop here. So this continue statement, when SQL Server will see that, it will give the control back to the while loop here. It will not execute any statement after this continue statement. So that means this thing will never be printed. Or I can, instead of writing this, I can write it like something like this. After the continue statement, right? So let me run this and let me see if we are able to print this. As you can see, this after the continue statement is not getting printed, right? Why it is not getting printed? Because as I said, whenever SQL Server sees the continue thing, it will take back the control from there. It will give the control again to here to while loop, right? So now you can see for the one, the inside while loop is printed because we are first incrementing the value. After that only we are printing it. So it will become 1 here. Then after that it will become 2. Once it becomes 2, it will come here and it will check that if side value equal to 2, so that is true, then it will break the control from here, and then if it will directly go to here, that means done while loop, right? So this is how the continue and the break statement works with the while loop. So I think that's all for today, guys. If anyone has any question, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can again talk tomorrow.